Alright, what is going on, guys? Today I'm going to be making another pickups video. This one's going to be of everything that I picked up at RetroGameCon in Syracuse. So this is a convention that I go to just about every year. It's one of my favorite cons that I've been to, though I've only been to like 3 or 4. Long Island Retro is definitely a lot cooler for the experience, just because it's in an aviation museum. You know, there's the whole museum aspect to it, but the actual vendor hall is a lot smaller than RetroGameCon. So for buying stuff, I really like this convention. And I definitely bought some stuff. So I guess I'll get the games out of the way. I really only bought like 3 games because I'm mainly just trying to get all the consoles. My goal is to get one of every single console, eventually every like revision and color variant and things like that. And I would also like to have at least one, like, really good game for it. So, you know, for the Super Nintendo, Chrono Trigger. For the PC Engine CD, I want to have Rondo of Blood. Like, I just want to have, like, the game for that system. And then, obviously, I'll pick up other ones as time goes on. So I'll start out with this first game. It's not a very expensive one. I was actually surprised at it only being $30, but it was complete in box, and the box is in really good condition. That is Turok 2 for the N64. So I've never actually played any of the Turok games. I've heard really good things about them. This is actually a Blockbuster box, so I don't know if that's just a sticker that was put on it. I think it is, but the actual cartridge has like a Blockbuster sticker over it, which is pretty cool. You can see I paid $30 for it, and overall in very good condition. So there is that sticker on there, but it's a Blockbuster sticker. I think it's kind of cool, so I'm gonna leave all of that on there. From the front, aside from that sticker, there's nothing really on it, and it just looks really clean. I also got a box protector for it, which is nice. Next up, this is kind of like a last minute pickup because it was cheap and it was my last $20 that I had. So I picked up Pictionary on the NES, which, if you don't know, is really only notable for its soundtrack. It was made by a guy named Tim Fallon, who made some of the best music on the NES and Super Nintendo, and like the ZX Spectrum, the Amiga. Like, he just made a bunch of really good chiptune music. But this game sucks, but complete in box, $20. Can't really complain. Came with a box protector too, which is nice. But yeah, I'm probably never going to open it. I think I have a loose copy of this also, but why not? And then this one here I picked up because it actually has quite a bit of like meaning to me outside of just being a really good game, which it is. And that is Super Mario Land 2 6 Golden Coins for the Game Boy. So this is actually pretty much the reason why I got into retro gaming, because I was born in 2004. I'm only 20. Most of these games have been out significantly longer than I've been alive, including this one. But when I was probably 10, 11, something like that, I got a 3DS for my birthday, and I remember getting like a $20 gift card or something with it, which wasn't enough to buy any actual 3DS games. But on their eShop, they had a bunch of Game Boy Color, NES, and maybe like Sega Genesis. I can't remember exactly, but there were a few different like retro consoles that you could buy emulated versions of games for, and this is one of the ones that I bought. If I remember correctly, I think I got this, Zelda 1, and Mario 1, but this one I played a bunch. Like, I basically 100%ed it like the first week I had it, and you know, this was the whole reason why I asked my parents to buy me a Game Boy Advance for my birthday, even though it was like 2014 and I was the only person wanting a Game Boy Advance for my birthday. But they ended up getting me one, and that's kind of why this all started. So I just wanted a really nice boxed copy. It looks almost perfect. I got it in a little protector just to keep it nice. There's a little crease here, unfortunately, but from the front, you can't really notice any type of defects or anything in it. So just wanted this to kind of put on display. I'd eventually like to get like a glass display case, and I want to put this in there. But yeah, it was $75, which for me, I don't think is half bad. Alright, so now we're just on to all the consoles. There's one that I got a game for. The rest I either already had games for, or I'm planning on getting them in the future. So I guess let's start out with probably the most boring, or the least out there console. Oh, actually, there is one quick thing that I want to show before I start getting into the consoles. And that is this, which I did not expect to find at that convention. This is called the TurboVision, and it's a little TV tuner for the TurboExpress. And I think this is exactly the same as the PC Engine GT tuner, so I'm assuming it's probably compatible. But anyway, I got my TurboExpress here, which I got from the Long Island Retro Convention, so check that out if you haven't seen that video. Anyway, it just kind of clips in there, a little funky. There we go. And then it just screws into place. And it is super bulky and super terrible to actually use. I can't imagine actually like playing a game like this, but then you have this little dial here, which you would use to tune to analog TV channels, which don't exist anymore, so there's not really a whole lot you can do with it. Although, it does have an AV input, so maybe in some videos, if I ever need like a tiny little monitor to display something, I'll use this, because, I mean, why not? It's kind of a cool use for it. Now I have kind of the whole setup here. There's probably some other weird accessories, but this is like the only first-party one that I know of. Anyway, back to the consoles. So this one here, I already technically had. Well, I had a different version of it, but it's broken, so I needed a working one. And that is a Panasonic 3DO. This is the FZ1 model. So, personally, not my favorite design. I think this and the Gold Star are pretty ugly, which of course are the two that I have. I really like the FZ10, which has like the top loader, but whatever. This one works. It's probably going to need to be recapped soon because all of them do. But I could actually play my 3DO games now because my Gold Star has been broken for like over a year. So I just needed another 3DO. I ended up trading a 3DS that I had lying around, just like an extra one, and a couple games that I didn't really need for it. So can't complain. Got it for practically nothing. It also came with a controller, which is nice because all of the controllers that came with my Gold Star are broken somehow. I don't know how that happened, but whatever. Next up, this one I mainly got for display. I'd like to fix it and get it working at some point, but I bought it fully knowing that it was broken. But I got a really good price for it, even considering that, so not going to show up on camera very well, but it is a Model 1 Sega CD. It was complete in box. The only thing it was missing was like the pack-in titles, which I could always find later. But the system was in there, the manual's in there, all the inserts and everything like that. Box isn't in perfect condition. You can see the edges are a little messed up, and then this flap is kind of a little broken. Definitely looks like it has some water damage or just like warping from humidity, but it's not terrible, and it still look pretty cool on my shelf. Box protector usually kind of hides some of the edge damage, so I could probably get it looking pretty decent. Plus the actual Sega CD, which is not in the box right now. It's actually completely taken apart on another table down here. Even if it's completely broken, I can at least kind of make a tower of power, and I have a Model 2 if I actually want to play the games. I ordered a cap kit, I ordered new ribbon cables, some other things like that, so hopefully I can get it working, because it's just like completely dead. It doesn't really do anything, so that's going to be a project, but for now, it's a cool box to look at. And I got it for $200, which is usually what an empty box would go for, so can't really complain. Okay, so I have two more consoles here that were released in North America, and then the last two are going to be imports. So I've said before, I don't usually buy imports from conventions because they're most of the time a little overpriced, but these were actually not bad, and they came with some extras and things like that, so I decided to buy them. But anyway, as for things that were released here, I got a Sega CDX, which if you don't know, this is a Sega CD, also another thing that I could play those games on if I never fixed that Model 1, portable CD player, and Genesis. So you could throw a cartridge in here, obviously play it like any other Genesis would, but then it has a CD player built in. You just put your normal audio CDs in, or you could put your Sega CD game discs in. It will play them like a normal Sega CD. Then it's actually got a little battery compartment here where you can put batteries in to listen to audio CDs on the go. So it's a really cool thing. I definitely paid probably about what it's worth. I paid around $400 for it, but it's one of those things that I've been wanting for a really long time. I think it's really cool, just the compactness of it. I mean, I don't have one here with me, but this is like the size of a Sega CD game case. So very small, very compact. I don't know exactly how like audio quality and things like that stack up compared to the other Genesis models. I'm assuming it's probably similar to like a Genesis 2, which is kind of middle of the range for everything. But yeah, just a really neat system to have. It's also got this this little Velcro thing on the bottom, which is kind of annoying. I don't know if I want to risk trying to peel it off, but maybe. Alright, so this one here is going to be a complete nightmare to show on camera. So, I'll see what I can do. Right here. Oh yeah, that's not going to work at all. Okay, this one's not going to show up on camera at all, so I'm just going to show some footage of me kind of looking around it and just put that in the video. So this is a Vectrex. It's a second-gen console. Came out around the same time as like the Atari 2600, ColecoVision, things like that. But it was mainly trying to emulate the old arcade cabinets with vector graphics. So this was kind of trying to be like an at-home arcade, which I think is really cool. So it kind of approached making a console completely differently than any other systems I've seen. So it has a built-in CRT screen, it's vertical, and instead of displaying normal graphics with like pixels, it displays vector graphics, which basically means the the electron beam inside the CRT, instead of drawing like lines at a time, doing like 240 vertical lines, it actually just draws a straight line from one point to another. So it means you can't have filled in areas, so everything's all outlines and wireframe, but it means you could get some really sharp graphics on it, especially for, the time. And it also had like a 3D attachment, which I don't have. I'd love to get it at some point, but it's very expensive. But it's just overall a really neat system, and one that I've been kind of wanting to get for the past couple months. I saw a few of them at Long Island Retro. I think I pointed them out in my video. But they all either had slight problems or they were just a little too expensive. Unfortunately, I don't have a game for this, but it did come with one kind of built into it, which is basically just like an Asteroids clone. So I at least have something to play on it. But yeah, very cool system, and one that I've been wanting to have for a super long time. So next up, I've got the two imports that I was talking about. So I guess I'll start out with the one that also probably won't show very well on camera. And that is, this, a PCFX. So if you don't know what this is actually an NEC console. I'm going to have to just do B-roll of it again like the other thing because it's just not going to show on camera very well. But if you don't know what the PCFX is, it was basically a successor to the TurboGrafx or PC Engine in Japan. Only released there, we never got it, and none of the games on it were super groundbreaking. Unfortunately, they had this weird thing where they thought that FMV games were the future, so they kind of forced developers into just making FMV games, which obviously really sucks, especially if you don't know Japanese and it was a Japan exclusive console. Pretty much everything there is just anime, and there's very few games with like actual gameplay. There's a lot of like dating sims and visual novels and things like that, so not a whole lot for me. But there are a few games for it that are pretty good. There's like one or two shmups. There's like a beat 'em up that's really good. I'm not really super knowledgeable on all the games that were released for this, but I know there's a few that are out there that are pretty worth playing. And then there's also some fan translations, because I think there's like an RPG or two also. So there's fan translations of all of that. So I could try some of those on like a burnt disc. Just a kind of neat system. I really like looking at it. I think it's really cool looking. So I just kind of wanted it mainly for that, and also just to kind of say, I have one. But like I said, this actually came with some pretty cool extras. So the first thing it came with was this, the PCFX BMP, which is basically just like a little memory card for it. For whatever reason, I don't think the system had any internal storage. Maybe it had a little bit, but you basically need one of these to save any data on, and weirdly enough, it's actually battery operated, so I wouldn't be surprised if the batteries in here have completely exploded. Looks like they did at one point, but at least the previous guy took them out. But yeah, this just slots into like a little flap on the front of the system, and it just kind of works like a memory card. I don't know if I'm ever going to use it, but it's at least nice that it came with it. I also got the FX mouse, which is obviously a mouse for the PCFX. I'm assuming a lot of those like visual novels and things used this. I don't know if there's any games that are really worth playing that use it, but hey, I have it and it's complete in the box. Let's see if I take it out. It's just, standard looking mouse, nothing super special. And then weirdly enough, I don't know how the seller got this, because this is not something that actually goes to the PCFX. It goes to an even rarer piece of hardware that is PCFX related, called the FXGA, which is basically a 3D accelerator card for your PC that lets it play PCFX games. Very similar concept came out for the 3DO, actually, where you'd put a card in your computer and then you can use it to play 3DO games on a PC. Weirdly, the PCFX GA actually had some extra hardware that the FX didn't. So it actually supports 3D graphics, which the normal system doesn't do very well. And I believe because of that, this disc only works on the FXGA. It doesn't work on the normal PCFX I have. But it is this, which is an amateur CD-ROM. From doing some kind of digging and trying to get information on this, looks like this was just kind of like a compilation of demos made by some students somewhere, I think. I'm not entirely sure, but it's just a bunch of demos for the FXGA, because since that was a PC add-on, it actually made it really easy to develop games for the platform. So there's, I think, a few different versions of this. I know I've seen one that's pink instead of blue. I don't know what's on it at all. There's no back part to it, so I really don't know. Might be something in the manual. So, yeah, I'm thinking it's just kind of like a compilation of little mini games and demos and things that people made. So that's really neat. Definitely, if I ever get an FXGA, which is something I've been kind of thinking about, but if I ever get one, I'll definitely try this out. So it's cool that I actually have this disc. I don't know what it's worth. I couldn't find any sold listings or anything, but I think this plus the mouse plus the memory card made it worth paying a little over market for. I think I paid around $300, which these usually in Japan they're like $150. In America they're around $250, which makes sense with, shipping costs and things like that. But with all the add-ons, I think it was totally worth it. Anyway, down to my last system, which also came with some kind of cool add-ons. It's one that, even if you guys have heard of the PCFX before, you've probably never heard of this one, because this is very niche. Actually niche enough to where the app that I use to track my collection doesn't even have it on there, which is a little annoying, but, I put in a request to hopefully have them add it. But anyway, it's called the GP32 Blue, or just the GP32 in general. Blue, or BLU, is basically just a normal system with a backlight. This was kind of released as like a Game Boy Advance competitor. I think it came out in 2001, and the original models have no backlight. Then there was the FLU, which had a front light, and the BLU, which had a black light. So kind of similar to like the Game Boy Advance, the Game Boy Advance SP, and then the SP101. But anyway, this is an open source game console from what I understand. And I put it in the box upside down, so it just fell out. Yeah, I think I still have some batteries in here, so I can power it on and just show you. See right here, it's don't actually have any cartridge inserted, so it's not really going to do anything. But the system actually uses smart media cards, which is very unique. I don't know if I've ever seen any console use these. I think the only thing I own that uses them is that Sega Digio camera, which I don't know if I've ever actually shown in a video, but basically there's a Sega Saturn camera that uses these same memory cards. But anyway, cartridges just slot in the top. They're very small, very thin, so you got to be careful with them because I feel like I could snap it by accident. But anyway, this cartridge that came with it is actually pretty cool because it has just a bunch of emulators and stuff on it. I'm assuming these are normal games. It looks like you were able to download games on a computer, put them on a smart media card, and then you could play them on this. That's kind of where like the whole open source thing comes from. This actually runs like a very light version of Linux. People were able to develop games for it, and then they could just release them online. All you do is put it on your memory card, and then you can play. So I'm assuming that's what a lot of these top ones are. But then if I go down here, there's Dr. MD, which is a Mega Drive emulator. There's a Game Boy Advance emulator, I think there's a, yep, SNES 9X, and some of these other ones, which I don't know what they are. But from my testing, the Mega Drive emulator is the only one that's really usable. Game Boy Advance runs at like 2 frames per second. Super Nintendo runs alright. Not amazing, though. Anyway, they have a couple ROMs on here, so let's just go. Of course, they don't have any like Sonic or anything, but they have Castlevania, so can't complain about that one. Yeah, here we go, playing Castlevania Bloodlines. So, something very neat about this console is it actually has a micro-switched D-pad. So, very similar to the one found in the Neo Geo Pocket Color. You can see right here, it's got kind of a click to it. It's not the best thing ever to use, but it's pretty neat. But yeah, I just think this is a really cool console. And there were actually some retail games released for it. So this is obviously just someone's random memory card that they installed all these files onto, which is neat that you can do that. But then also at that same table, the seller had this, which is, I can't remember exactly what the name is. It'll say it on the menu. Oh, right there. Tomak Save the World Again. It's like a little shoot 'em up. Technically, the cartridge is supposed to go in here, but I don't know the correct way to get it out, so I've just been kind of setting it up here. But yeah, they come in these really cool boxes that I like. Very nice condition, actually. I'm surprised this is as clean as it was. All the smart media cards come in a little sleeve like that. Slide it out, and then they just go right in there. Alright, so here we go. Backlight on this isn't perfect, so it's kind of hard to see. Also, the viewing angles are really bad, so either you guys can see it or I can see it. It's very hard to do both. But anyway, yeah, it's just a little shoot 'em up. Does not run great, but I mean, it's still pretty neat. So yeah, pretty cool console. There's a few other games that I've wanted to get, but they're very hard to find because this console is only released in Korea and some parts of Europe, although I think in Europe it got a very limited release. So there might be some games that are in English, but I think the majority are all in Korean. But either way, super neat console, one that I've been wanting to get for a long time, so I was actually trying to find one directly from Korea, but it's just impossible to buy stuff from there. So when I saw one at the convention, I pretty much bought it instantly because I knew I'd probably not be able to find one again, at least without going on eBay. And yeah, it was complete in box. The box is in really nice condition. It's got a couple scratches and things, but overall it's not too bad. And it actually came with this, which is the GP Link. This actually let you connect it to the internet. I don't know how good that experience is, but the fact that it has it's pretty cool. I'm assuming it could probably also like link up to other systems for multiplayer, although I really don't know a whole lot about it. But yeah, it's all in the box. It's probably only been used like once or twice. Weirdly, this one's black, even though on the box it shows that it's white, but whatever. It's still the same thing. It's still an original one. Yeah, anyway, I believe that's everything. Hopefully I'm not forgetting anything too major. I'm going to have my monthly pickups video at the end of the month, so if I find anything else that I forgot about, I'll just throw it in there. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It definitely helps me out a lot. And yeah, guess I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.